All right, Nehemiah chapter 2, let's call this one Be the Reason That God is Generous. Understanding he's generous all the time, but these chapters are helping us understand that in these men who are fasting consistently in times of trouble, Ezra and Nehemiah, they understand that God does not owe us anything. And so in situations where they have been given a provision enough to succeed to a certain level and they've fallen short of that level, whether it's their fault or not, they understand that they have the potential for God to continue to give them another chance, even though they don't necessarily deserve it. And we're going to see that in the way that Nehemiah approaches King Artaxerxes, in some ways distressed over the condition of Israel, but likewise afraid to go back in front of the king who has already been so generous to their efforts to resettle and rebuild in Israel. And so he is going to overcome his fear to go before the king, who before he can make any kind of request is going to notice that he is sad. And so as the king notices he is sad, he is going to be afraid because now he is in the position of asking for stuff. Before he seems like he might be necessarily ready to do that, but he's going to offer up another short prayer that God be with him as he takes a chance and is candid with the king about what's going on. He's going to say, why should I be happy when things are going so poorly for my people back in Israel? The king is going to eventually ask him, okay, well, what are you requesting? And he's going to be very candid again and saying, please send me back so that I can help the people of Israel rebuild. And the king is going to ask him for a timeline. So after he gives him a timeline, he's going to be pleasantly surprised, my ad lib, to find out that the king is willing to let him go. And he is also going to give him the things that he asks for, which comes in the form of a letter to the governors on Israel's side of the river, guaranteeing him safe passage on his way back to Jerusalem, and likewise, enough materials, if they haven't already asked for enough materials to continue building all that still needs to be repaired in Jerusalem and in Judah. And the king is going to grant his requests, once again, understanding that the kings of Persia have already given Israel a lot, helping us understand once again the importance of both wings of that Golden State talent acquisition principle of high character, high IQ, how it's not enough to simply be high IQ, but high character continues to open doors in times when they justifiably should be closed. And so as Nehemiah has respect both for God and the king, understanding that this is an opportunity he is not entitled to, he, like Ezra, not simply because of his talent, which has probably gotten him his position, but his character is the kind of man that the king is not simply going to say, okay, fine, you can go back, but he is going to send him back in abundance. Understanding, as we saw in Ezra's relationship with King Artaxerxes, we are seeing another man who has carried himself before the king, not simply having talent, but having the kind of character that encourages the king not just to give him another opportunity or another chance, but to give him abundance so that he doesn't have to go back struggling trying to rebuild Israel. And so in spite of all of the questions that Artaxerxes could have asked, why do you need more? What have you done with what I already gave you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? All he asks him is, how long do you need and how much do you need? And with that level of trust, he sends Nehemiah off with a level of abundance that once he arrives back in Israel is actually going to make Israel's enemies jealous, helping to underscore once again the difference between mere acceptance and acceptance with abundance. Artaxerxes has sent yet another one of his officials from Israel back with enough to restore Israel to what it should be. And understanding all of the abundance that Artaxerxes has sent him back with, he now has what we might call good problems, since now he simply has to find time to be able to plan in peace before the enemies of Israel have a chance to undermine their efforts to continue rebuilding. So he is going to go out and scout the wall, the places that he plans to rebuild at night, and plan without even telling very many people in Israel, so that by the time he does assemble them together, they are in a position to move quickly in a way that their enemies can't easily undermine or oppose. Leaving me with maybe a couple of takeaways. First and foremost, while times are good, may we see God's help in developing the kind of character, the kind of wisdom and character that when we mess up, encourage God not to simply give us new opportunities, but to give us abundance in the new opportunities that he gives us. And then two, to the degree that the abundance God gives us potentially raises the resentment of people around us or people who know us, that God give us both the wisdom and the strength to not water down our God-given potential simply for the approval of those around us.